All right. Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate having you. We're going to get started in just a second. I want to let everybody know that I'm Rick and I'm working with the Project Spectrum outreach team today. We want to thank you for joining us for this interesting webinar. Now, this is a topic that's not particularly flashy, but it is incredibly important, and that's incident response planning for small manufacturers. You have to look at it this way. It's kind of like the emergency exits on a plane. You hope you never really need them, but when you do, you really want them to work and you really want to know how to use them. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So again, thank you for taking the time out of your day, no matter what side of the country you're on, no matter what time zone you're in. If you're on the East, we're in the afternoon. If you're on the West, you're in the morning, but we appreciate you spending time with us today, and we're going to go ahead and get started. So not one to really talk about myself so much, but for those of you, you may know me. I've worked with the Project Spectrum outreach team for several years now, and I've presented a lot of these webinars and love doing it every single time. So thank you much. Some of you may also know me from Move America, where I run the strategic communications for that nonprofit that's there to help with the NPP program as the intermediary, also help to bolster the defense industrial base. So no matter where you know me from, or if this is the first time you're seeing me, I hopefully that I will entertain and inform you today during this webinar. And I am here, of course, on behalf of Project Spectrum, which is a DoD recognized cybersecurity initiative. Project Spectrum is here to help businesses, no matter what size, no matter what type of organization, build that cyber muscle that they need to stay secure and compliant. Think of Project Spectrum kind of like your cybersecurity personal trainer, but without all the yelling and the burpees, that sort of thing. So before we jump into the good stuff, just a little housekeeping. First of all, I just want to let you know your microphone is muted and your camera is off. Now, you see, we do that for a specific reason. We keep those things off because, as much as we like to hear the soothing hum of coffee makers or the occasional motivational bark from a dog, we kind of want to keep those on the quiet side. Also, cameras are off because we just know that sometimes it's better to focus on what's on the screen rather than who's over to the side showing up on camera. Now, I want you to take a quick look at your display name, just so that we know whether you're going to be listed in here by your name, or is it like iPad Mom, or maybe user 1234. Just note what your display name is, because that's what everybody else is going to see. Now, just a quick transparency note. Project Spectrum is run by Echelon, which is a Department of Defense contractor based in Maryland. Maryland is what's known as a two-party consent state, among other things, which means we legally have to let you know that this webinar is being recorded. Now, remember, nobody else is on camera except for the speaker, me, and one other speaker. Microphones are muted. What's visible is only your display name. So unless it shows up with something like Taylor Swift 1989, Batman Needs Wi-Fi, Captain America, which is always a good one, Oprah guest appearance, maybe Beyonce fan club admin, no one's really going to think twice about your name, because again, it could be anybody's name unless it's really that unique. But that said, if you'd rather not be part of a recorded session, even anonymously, we completely respect that. So go ahead and feel free to drop off the webinar now. There's no pressure. We'll make sure that we send you the recording afterward once it's posted to our YouTube channel so that you can catch it on your own time, kind of like your cybersecurity Netflix queue. But again, we're going to give you a moment. Anybody who wants to drop off the webinar because it's being recorded, please go ahead and do so now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Now, today we're going to explore why small manufacturers are on the cyber front lines, what CMMC is all about, how to build a game plan for when, not if, a cyber incident hits. And yes, I'm going to try to keep it upbeat throughout the entire time. But here's what we're covering today in our agenda. We're going to start with the current threat landscape, which is something that we always like to do. We're going to walk through CMMC and data classification, and then we're going to dive into incident response, why you need a plan, what it should include, how to make it real, and not just paperwork. So all of that is what we're going to cover today. So again, this is our agenda, and we're going to do our best to get through it in the hour that you've agreed to give us today. Now, before I go any further, what I'd like to do is I would like to introduce Mr. Kareem Sykes. He is the Director of Industry and Engagement for Project Spectrum, and Kareem's going to tell you more about Project Spectrum, what they do, and how they operate. Kareem, take it away.
Rick, fantastic. And again, welcome and good afternoon to everyone, or morning as it were, depending on where you are in this great United States of America of ours. We're going to be talking about some very interesting things today, and I want to just welcome you first and foremost. Once again, Rick, fantastic lead in there. Project Spectrum, as we talk about incident response planning and for manufacturing, protecting again what you build, right? I want to talk about the fact that Project Spectrum is, in fact, an initiative of the Department of Defense, Office of Small Business Programs, and we're dedicated to enhancing cybersecurity readiness across the DIB and the broader manufacturing ecosystem, which is obviously disproportionately attacked, or rather susceptible to attacks from a cybersecurity perspective. Today's session is all about preparation, not reaction, right? So in an increasing connected and contested digital landscape, manufacturers, large and small, have absolutely become prime targets for cyber attacks. Now, whether it's ransomware halting production lines or intellectual property theft, threatening national security, your ability to respond decisively is mission critical. And so this webinar is going to kind of walk you through a number of key elements of a robust incident response plan, again, tailored specifically to and for the manufacturing environment. So we're going to cover a number of topics, as Rick alluded to there. Obviously, the kind of core phases of incident response, some common threats facing modern manufacturers, real world examples, right, of cyber incidents, and again, lessons learned. There's a number of resources and templates I want to bring to your attention that Project Spectrum provisions to help you with respect to, and namely, incident response planning, right? And so, again, right now, those resources are at no cost. And so we want to make sure that we highlight that, again, our goal is for you to leave with actionable insights and practical tools that you can take back to your organization and put into practice immediately by leveraging projectspectrum.io and the myriad resources that avail themselves there. If you have any questions, again, during the presentation, again, as Rick alluded to, drop those in the chat. We want to hear from you. We want to make sure that all of your concerns are addressed. With that, let's go ahead and get started. Rick, I'll pass it back to you.
Thanks very much, Kareem. Really do appreciate you. And yes, remember, Project Spectrum is here for you. It's all about strengthening the defense industrial base, strengthening national security and business at its core. The training, tools, and templates that are going to help you protect your data, meet compliance. They're even going to help you sleep better at night. Trust me. Without you having to go out and hire a 10-person IT team. All of these resources, like Kareem said right now, are at no cost to the user. So please make sure that you're taking advantage of that. Project Spectrum, here to help protect you who are here to do big things for national defense. We're here to give you that same plain book that the primes and large contractors use without the 500-page binders or the consultant fees that rival the cost of Super Bowl ads. So again, Project Spectrum here for you. Projectspectrum.io is the website. So let's go ahead and jump right into the threat landscape. You know, you're going to see numbers here. 43% of all cyber attacks target small and medium businesses. 28% of those businesses have plans to mitigate attacks. 74% of breaches are caused by human error. We call that PEBCAC. The problem exists between the chair and the keyboard, or between the, yes. So it's all really there. You've got the cost of cyber attacks, which this is just the monetary cost. There are so many other things that could potentially really come about from a cyber attack. And then you've got the insurance coverage. If you think your regular P&C insurance coverage for your business is going to cover cyber attacks, you're incorrect. You need specialized insurance. And in order to do that, you have to show that you've got some cybersecurity wherewithal. So remember, cyber attackers at the end of the day love small manufacturers. They love the smaller and medium-sized businesses because it's kind of like zombie movies. They go for the ones least likely to run. You're in the supply chain, you've got valuable intellectual property, and you often don't have a full-blown cybersecurity team. So basically, it's the digital equivalent of the low fenced yard in Jurassic Park. Just like with the Raptors, the hackers are going to test for weaknesses. So why are small and mid-sized manufacturers such a top target? Well, again, you can see here your access to intellectual property. You've got those connections to the larger contractors, and sometimes there are even ideological motivations. Threat actors can be nation states. It's usually a very coordinated effort. They see smaller companies, small and medium-sized companies, as the entry point to more lucrative targets. And so let's just face it, a lot of those businesses just aren't resourced for high-level security. Now, let's talk about the threats. Again, these threat actors are smart. They're often going to go after the smallest player in the supply chain because it's the easiest way into those bigger targets. Kind of like the classic movie Ocean's 11, but with USB drives instead of explosives. Now, small manufacturers, medium-sized manufacturers, you're vulnerable due to limited resources and the valuable intellectual property that you hold. You're not just building components, you're storing designs, you've got specs, and you've got access to federal systems and larger contracts. That's a really appealing target. That is what is putting you right in the crosshairs for those threat actors. But you have to understand, it's not just data theft. These threats can bring your production to a grinding halt. It can disrupt the supply chain and it can damage your reputation. That's the big thing. Monetary costs are one thing. Reputational damage is something that you really can't afford and you really can't avoid. A phishing email or ransomware attack can shut down equipment, it can delay orders, it can even cost you future business. That's why we're letting you know that it's critical to understand both the threats and their unique effects on your manufacturing operations. So let's break things down a little bit further. Phishing, ransomware, supply chain vulnerabilities, these are obviously all top concerns. Intellectual property theft and operational disruptions are not just IT issues. They're business continuity threats. These aren't abstract risks. They do directly impact your productivity and ultimately your profit. And that's where CMMC, or the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification, comes in. It sets the standards for keeping that government data that is going to and from DoD secure. Think of it kind of like the TSA for digital defense. There are different levels of screening based on what you're carrying. And we'll get into those levels in just a little bit. You got to understand, there are a lot of people since CMMC was introduced several years ago that have had a love-hate relationship with it. It's kind of like your new best frenemy. It's a framework that's going to tell you how secure you should be if you're handling sensitive government data. So you've got to make sure that you keep up to those standards. Think of it like a gym membership for cybersecurity, but this one is really going to affect your ability to get those DoD contracts if you happen to, skip a few reps. So when you're looking at the CMMC model, you've got a couple of different levels. Level 1 is considered foundational. This is the very basic cybersecurity hygiene for companies that are handling federal contract information only, and we're going to get into that in just a bit. You've got level 2, that's more advanced and applies to controlled unclassified information. Then level 3, that is really expert level. That is required for highly sensitive DoD programs. Now, each level adds more requirements, more controls, but the core idea stays the same. You need to protect the data that you're trusted with. And I will tell you this, in the majority of manufacturers, you're really only going to need to hit level 1. Some of you are going to have to bump up to level 2. And again, we're going to talk about that, particularly when it comes to the types of CUI that you handle. But It is never a bad thing to overachieve when it comes to cybersecurity. It's really not a destination, it's a journey. And so the higher you can go, the more secure your company is going to become. So here's a quick breakdown for when you're talking about FCI, Federal Contract Information, and CUI, which is Controlled Unclassified Information. FCI is kind of like information you'd see in a job posting. It's important, but it's not top secret. Now, CUI, on the other hand, is more sensitive. It's technical drawings, it's specs, it's internal communications, and all of that stuff really needs to be protected. And if you're working with CUI, a basic antivirus plan and crossed fingers are not going to cut it. You've got incident response that's going to become mandatory. Now, we give you some examples here, but I will tell you this. How to tell FCI from CUI. FCI includes things like organizational charts or RFP responses and performance reports. Again, it's sensitive information, but it's not regulated like classified data. Now, CUI, on the other hand, that includes things like technical drawings, proprietary business info, or documents marked for official use only. Now, if you're touching CUI, you need to follow those very specific DoD guidelines for handling and reporting incidents, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Now, when it comes to knowing what kind of data you handle, that's the first step toward compliance. If your contract involves FCI, you're expected to meet at least level 1 when it comes to CMMC. If you handle CUI, level 2 applies, and the stakes are definitely higher. Understanding your data classification guides your entire approach to cybersecurity. That includes your incident response planning. FCI is kind of like your sandwich recipe. Again, it's important, but it's not secret. But CUI is grandma's secret sauce formula. You definitely don't want that for public consumption. You know, think about the ingredients to Coca-Cola or the 11 herbs and spices when it comes to KFC. That's stuff that you don't want getting out there in the general public. And if you've got either, CMMC is going to make sure you've got digital locks on your recipe cabinet. Now, let's go ahead and pivot to the heart of today's webinar. This is incident response planning. Think of this as your company's playbook for when, not if, a cyber incident occurs, because believe me, it will. It's about preparing your team. It's about defining roles. And it's about making sure you're not making high stakes decisions on the fly, especially when time is critical. Because without a plan, responding to a cyber incident is like trying to bake a cake during a kitchen fire. It's going to be chaotic, it's going to be stressful, and it's going to end with somebody calling the insurance company. A solid IR plan is going to keep things orderly, especially when it matters the most. So when it comes to incident response, your plan is like a fire drill for cyber incidents. Without it, again, you're left making those critical decisions in the middle of chaos. With your incident response plan, everybody knows what to do, who to call, how to contain the damage. It's really going to give you all of the information that you need to act quickly, communicate clearly, and recover faster. Incident response is so much more than damage control. It's a key compliance requirement. You really need to prove that your organization can detect, document, and recover from an incident. That includes everything from identifying the indicators of compromise to reporting and learning from the event. Now, CMMC Level 2 and Level 3 both have specific controls tied directly to this. So you've got a lot of information that you need to understand when it comes to your incident response plan. And again, this is an area where Project Spectrum is going to be able to help. A strong incident response capability really supports your CMMC compliance. Now, it also will give you some other benefits like minimizing your downtime, protecting your sensitive data, helping you maintain trust with your customers and your prime contractors. And more importantly, it's going to demonstrate maturity when your cybersecurity program is assessed. Remember, if you go to CMMC Level 2 and you're handling that prioritized CUI data, you need that certified third-party assessor to come in and say everything is good. If you are going to Level 3, it definitely needs that certified third-party assessment. And so you want to make sure that you're able to show that you're able to meet those CMMC compliance obligations. Now, when it comes to structure, a compliant incident response plan should include a few different things. You've got policy and governance, which is to set the tone and the scope. You've got defined roles and communication channels so that everyone knows who is doing what and when. You've got detection mechanisms. These are the things that are going to flag potential threats early. This is what makes sure that you're not just reacting, you're prepared and you're coordinated. You know, I was just on a webinar the other day with a CMMC assessor, and he said something that a lot of people don't really take to heart. If a threat actor gains access to your system, they're not going to do something right away. They're going to hang out. They're going to scope things out. They used to call it in the movies, casing the place. They want to see how things move and how things operate, and they're going to wait for the opportune time to strike. That's why it's really important to have those detection mechanisms, because again, you're not going to know that they're in the system if you don't know that they're in the system until they do something, they're not going to do something right away. But if you know that they're in the system and they're not doing anything, and you have a way to detect that, then you have a way of getting them out of there. And again, protecting your data, protecting your people, your devices, and your reputation. So next up, we've got categorization and response. Remember, your plan should classify different incident types and assess the severity of those types, and then define what containment steps you're going to take, whether it's isolating a device, revoking credentials, restoring from a backup. No matter what it is that you're going to do, each action should be clearly documented. And don't forget, you need to review and learn from every single event. The lessons learned and reporting, this is paramount in making sure that not only are you recovered, but that it doesn't happen again. CMMC doesn't just want you to have an incident response plan. It wants receipts. It wants documentation. It wants proof. It wants policy. Think of it like Instagram for auditors. If you didn't document it, did it ever even happen? Now let's think about it and apply it to your space, manufacturing. CUI in the manufacturing space includes technical drawings, the process documentation, your sensitive correspondence. That's why your incident response plan should clearly identify where that data lives and how it's accessed. When those systems are affected, priority handling is critical to you moving forward. Now, when it comes to CUI in your environment, that again might include a bunch of different things. And that's again why the IR plan needs to treat these assets like VIPs at a concert. They get immediate attention, extra security, and don't forget that 72-hour notification rule to DoD. That's another real important one. That's right. If you've got CUI that ends up being compromised, you only have 3 days, and it's not 3 business days, it's 3 days, 72 hours to report that incident to the Department of Defense. That means that your plan needs to outline not only who to notify, but what to report. You need to tell them what happened, when it happened, the indicators of compromise, and then what you've actually done to contain it. All of that needs to be included in your IR plan. Because face it, when a cyber incident hits, it doesn't affect just your emails or your spreadsheets. Again, this is something that can bring your entire production line to a grinding halt. And that's why the incident response planning needs to be tightly aligned with all of your day-to-day manufacturing operations. You need to identify your mission critical systems now, so you're not scrambling later to figure it out, particularly during a time of crisis. Because as much as we like to say that we all operate better under pressure, we don't operate better under pressure. We just think that we do because we were under pressure and things got done. but it's all about, again, making sure that that effective plan accounts for your IT systems and your operational technology, identifying the systems that are essential, assigning production side contacts who can make quick decisions and coordinate with either your information technology team or your managed service provider. All of that is big time considerations for incident response planning. Now remember, it's not just about uptime. That is huge. That is absolutely huge, but it's also about safety, because if your response plan doesn't account for your operational technology, that's when you could be putting employees and equipment at risk, and you really can't afford to lose either. You need to plan for data loss. That's a given. But you also need to plan to keep your team safe if something goes wrong on the shop floor. So remember, that's the tricky part. It's not just the IT systems, it's your machinery. Imagine a ransomware attack shutting down a CNC machine. That's not just a glitch, that's money that's spilling out onto the floor and going down the drain. That's why your IR plan needs to speak to, again, both IT and OT very fluently. You need to make sure that all of that is taken care of. Now, when it comes to working with a managed service provider or an MSP, if your MSP handles your IT function, they also need to have a pretty big role in your incident response plan. You need, again, to define who does what before something goes wrong, not after something goes wrong or while something's going wrong. You don't want to be contacting your MSP and saying, now who handles this? Is that you or is that us? Because a lot of times they'll simply say, "Oh no, that's you," because they're wanting to pass the buck right back to you. But you need to remember, it's all about figuring things out. You don't want to be figuring it out mid-breach. That would be like assembling IKEA furniture without the manual, which even with the manual, it's challenging enough. If you rely on an MSP, now is the time, before something happens, to define their role in what your incident response plan is. You need to find out who at the MSP you contact and what exactly are they going to be responsible for. Who reports what to whom? Align with your MSP ahead of time. That's going to ensure that when an incident happens, remember, it is not if, it is when. When that incident happens, you and your MSP are responding in sync, not stepping on each other's toes. Because even if you're buttoned up, your subcontractors could open the door for hackers. So you need to make sure that you have incident response expectations too. It's the cybersecurity equivalent of, if you see something, say something. Cyber risk doesn't stop at your company's firewall. If your subcontractor or supplier has a breach as well, that could really impact your systems and compromise your CUI. So this is why your plan should include steps for handling incidents that originate externally. It's not just what's happening within your organization, it's what's happening within the organizations you do business with. And you need to expect the same of all of your vendors, your subcontractors, just the same as if you are a subcontractor to a prime, they are going to expect that from you. All right, so this is where we're going to say, let's go ahead and move from theory to practice. A well-implemented incident response plan should integrate with both your IT and operational systems. If a production system gets compromised, that's when your team should know exactly how to respond without having to shut down the entire facility. Again, you need to know what's essential, what isn't essential, what can be turned off, what needs to stay on, what needs to keep the wheels turning. All of that information needs to be there. So you need to have that well documented when you're talking about your incident response plan. So let's imagine you're a small manufacturer. For some of you, that's not a stretch. You're small manufacturers. You've got machines humming, you've got orders flying in and flying out the door, and then suddenly, bam, your network gets hit with a cyber attack. Again, this isn't just about someone snooping around in your email or freezing a spreadsheet. Again, you're talking about halted production lines, and that's going to mean angry customers that are going to be waiting on late shipments, potentially dangerous machinery behaving badly. I think everybody's seen the social media video of the autonomous robot arm that went crazy and started attacking people. This just doesn't happen by mistake. A lot of times this will happen as part of a cyber attack. That's why your cyber incident response can't live in a vacuum. It needs to be welded, not just duct taped, welded into your manufacturing operations. You've got to think beyond data loss. Again, when that robot arm started glitching, what would happen if that happened at your plant? What happens if your packaging line freezes mid-run? Again, it's not just a tech issue, it's a safety issue, it's an uptime issue, it's an emergency. That's when you're building your incident response plan, you need to make sure it's built like your best machinery or like your best product. It's resilient, it's responsive, and it's fully integrated with all of your daily operations. Now, again, when you're talking about this, we're really talking about, responding through continuous improvement. This is not something where you're simply going here and you're saying, okay, so this is my plan and my plan is going to live on. It needs to keep evolving over time. It's kind of like Pokemon, right? Uh, they, my goodness, what level are they on with that particular game or cartoon or whatever it is, movie? It's always evolving, and so you really have to think of it that way. You need to have that formal lessons learned process after every single event or every single tabletop exercise. You need to have your team come together and say, okay, so what happened, what didn't go well, what did go well, what could have gone better, what needs to change in the future. And then you need to make sure that you're tracking your metrics over time. Again, keeping an eye on where the bar is and continually raising that bar and then managing to keep going over it. You want to try to do that because that continuous improvement is going to show that you have the cybersecurity maturity that you need in order to get those DoD contracts. Now, here is where most companies take a face plant. They write a plan, they never test it, they never do anything other than rely on a vague, we'll figure it out strategy. I'm going to give you a little spoiler alert. Figuring it out during a ransomware attack is not a winning move. Even with the best of plans, remember, things can go sideways and they can go there really, really quickly. So one of the most common pitfalls, that's failing to document incidents. Even if something seems minor, like a phishing email that was blocked, you need to log it. Patterns, they matter. Auditors, they notice missing data. They're there to look for that kind of stuff. So this is something that you want to make sure that you avoid. Failing to document every single thing, it is better to over communicate than to under communicate. Now, another common mistake is skipping training. Look, if employees don't know what to look for, they're not going to know what to report. So that's why you really need to make training part of your routine. Here at Project Spectrum, we every now and then will get the email that looks like it's from the CEO or from someone important that says, hey, I need you to review this document for me. Click this link. Looks like it comes from that person's email, but it's written in plain text. And if you hover over the link, it's taking you somewhere outside of your network where it's probably going to ask you for credentials for Outlook or something like that. You need to make sure that you're doing that. You need to make sure that you're having that training. You need to make sure that everybody understands what they're doing. And it's also part of the roles and communication. Again, everybody needs to play a role in this. There are no small parts in cybersecurity. Everybody is important, even the smallest little thing. So you need to make sure that all of that is part of your cybersecurity boot camp. Consistent, practical reminders that keep your team aware of who does what needs to be communicated, how things are going to look. All of that is going to keep your team aware and ready. Now, in today's environment, incident response, it really isn't optional. You need to understand that it is essential, but there is good news. You don't need complex tools. You don't need an army of analysts. Again, you don't need that consultant that is going to be wondering whether or not your fee is going to pay for the next 2 years of a college education or is going to be buying a fishing boat at a lake house. You don't need all of that. If you've got the right plan, you've got clear roles, you've got ongoing training, and you've got those lessons learned from each event, no matter what size your company is, no matter how small your team is, you can be secure, you can be compliant, and you can be respected in the defense ecosystem. Now, that, of course, is where Project Spectrum comes in. If you're wondering, where do I go next? What do I do to get started with my incident response plan? We've got you covered. Project Spectrum at projectspectrum.io offers detailed resources to help you build or refine your incident response capabilities. This includes everything from understanding the requirements to implementing and assessing them. It's all designed with your business in mind. Again, Project Spectrum, free to use for your organization, no matter what size it is, no matter how many people you have. You're not limited to just one user. You're not limited to just one account. And you don't have to worry that we're going to sell your data to anybody. We're simply here to help you become cyber secure. We've got a virtual course on incident response. And let me just tell you, the feedback that we have gotten from users about our virtual courses has been tremendous. They really love the fact that our courses break down the information and present it in a way that's understandable, whether you're a novice, whether you're intermediate, or whether you're an expert. We're not going to talk over your head. We're not going to talk beneath you. We're going to present this information to you so that you understand it and you recognize it and that it helps you, because that really is what it's all about. All of our resources, particularly our training courses, are designed with businesses like yours in mind. We want you to become cyber secure. So another great place to head over on the Project Spectrum website, once you get registered for your free to you account and you have access to all of our available resources, we have an incident response policy template. Now, this includes a checklist, roles and responsibilities, escalation procedures, and post-incident review guidelines. Now, think of it this way. It's not a blank page. We're giving you a head start. We're giving you a jump start on this. You can access this under the client template section on our website. Now, one question that we always get that I'm going to try to answer right up front: will you write my incident response plan for me? Or will you insert anything else here for me? No, that's not what we're here to do. We're not going to write it for you. We're here to give you the template. We're here to guide you. Our cyber advisors, wonderful, wonderful people to work with. They're here to make sure that you understand what is going on when you have this information. They're going to answer your questions. They're not going to do the work for you, but they're going to make sure that the work gets done right and it gets done well. So please remember, our resources are here for you. Now, remember, even small steps matter, okay? So when you're talking about, you're talking about cybersecurity, we're not talking about having you live in Superman's fortress of solitude 24/7. You need a realistic, tested plan that fits your organization, the size of your organization, the type of organization, the industry sector, and your different operations. Remember, incident response, this is not a luxury. It's your organization's digital fire extinguisher. So we're always here to provide you with more resources than you could possibly need, because more is better and better is better. We're providing you with instructional videos and white papers. These along with our virtual courses, are going to walk you through how to implement and assess all of the CMMC related practices that you're going to need in order to meet whatever level of compliance you need. Now, again, some people are visual learners, others are readers. Some prefer that one-on-one guidance. Guess what? No matter what, we have it for you. We've got stuff to read, we've got stuff to watch, we've got stuff to listen to, and we've got people to talk to. We're here to help you. And again, we're going to help tailor that to your organization. So when it comes to cybersecurity, again, if you need help getting started, that's where you come to Project Spectrum. We have all of these resources that are available to you 24/7, 365. Our templates, our videos, our one-on-one advisory support from our cyber advisories, from cyber advisors. You know, think of it kind of like your own personal Netflix for cybersecurity, only it's useful and it doesn't have a monthly subscription. Now, beyond incident response, again, Project Spectrum offers a full suite of tools, templates, trainings, resources, security system plan templates, assessment and scoring tools, remediation plan templates, cyber training and education models. Remember, these are not just tech checklists. They are practical tools that are going to help you stay compliant and help your organization to continually improve over time. That's what's really important. It's that constant rate of improvement. All right, so I have talked at you for quite a bit. So we're going to see what questions you have for the Project Spectrum team. Now remember, the ones that begin with "this might be a dumb question," stop. There are no dumb questions. The only dumb questions that are actually out there are the ones you forget to ask. All right, so we've got, can you elaborate on expectations for subcontractors? How do I address timely production versus cybersecurity requirements? Well, the one thing you need to remember is that production and cybersecurity, I know that they seem like they're not on equal footing. Everybody always says that when it comes to manufacturing, you need to be 98% focused on production and 2% focused on the extraneous stuff. Cybersecurity is one of those things that is going to halt production. So think of it like any other piece of equipment in your manufacturing process. If something goes wrong and something breaks, everything's going to grind to a halt and you're not going to be able to do anything. Well, that's really how you need to look at cybersecurity. I know that you need to keep production timely, but think about how your production is going to suffer if cybersecurity isn't addressed and you become the victim of a cyber attack. Threat actors are out there and they are looking at you as a specific target because they know that you're an easier target than some of the larger prime contractors. So it's really about striking that balance. And we understand that it's very difficult for a lot of organizations, particularly when you're resource challenged. You know, we've worked with companies that have 2 and 3 employees. One employee is both the system admin and the person who sweeps up at night. So we have definitely been working with organizations like that for many years. And we always stress the same thing. You need to put in the time and you need to put in the effort to be cyber secure so that you could keep production flowing. You can become part of the defense industrial base. You can get those DoD contracts. You can become a subcontractor, eventually work your way up to becoming a prime contractor. So you really need to make sure that you're understanding that cybersecurity needs to be just as important as production, sometimes more important than production, because again, sometimes production can stop for a couple of days, but just imagine if your intellectual property gets stolen by somebody, or you end up becoming the back door to a larger prime contractor and their systems get compromised, then everything suddenly, you know, it's chaos. It's that meme that everybody sees where the person sitting in the break room drinking coffee saying it's fine, everything's fine, but everything around you is on fire. You don't want that situation. All right, another question that we've got. Are the 2 bullets regarding strengthening your incident response actually required by CMMC or just good practice? Now, again, what you need to remember is CMMC has different levels. So if you're talking about level 1, sometimes there are only, I believe it's 17 or 18 control families that are in CMMC level 1. If you're talking about CMMC level 2, you go up into the triple digits when it comes to control families, so things grow exponentially. So it again is going to matter what level of CMMC compliance you're looking to reach. Level 1, you don't have as much as level 2, and you definitely don't have as much as level 3. If you're ever in doubt, one of the things to remember is that if you only need level 1, but you can hit level 2 compliance on several or most of those control families, you're doing yourself a favor, because then if you end up in a situation where you need CMMC level 2, it's not that far of a climb to get to CMMC level 2. As far as what's required, again, it's going to matter what level you are. But it is good practice. It should be a best practice for you to keep in mind that you need to be as cyber aware as you possibly can. And incident response, again, huge part of that. Even at level 1, showing that you have a good incident response plan is going to help you get to those higher levels. All right, going to give a few more moments to see if we've got any further questions. Remember, if you do have a question, please go ahead and post it to the chat. We do greatly appreciate you doing that. Now, we do have a question about whether some folks within certain agencies are responsive or not. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you. We work with DoD and we work with the different programs within DoD. And what you need to remember is we work with them. We work in some instances for them, particularly me. Well, when I'm working with Move America, I'm working with the Mentor Protege program. And we do understand that sometimes it can seem like things aren't being responsive. People aren't being responsive. What I will tell you is you always need to make sure that you're contacting the right person, kind of like your incident response plan. You need to make sure you're contacting the right person about the right issue, because if you contact the wrong person, think about if you manufacture one particular kind of widget and somebody else comes along and says, hey, I'd love to sell you a machine that manufactures a completely different type of widget. You're not really going to pay much attention to that. You're going to kind of ignore it. So sometimes we have the tendency as humans to do that. And I'm not saying anybody ignores any emails, but I'm saying if something is not specifically in your wheelhouse, sometimes you won't be so quick to answer. What I will tell you is that there are always avenues around that. If you find that somebody at a particular program office is not being responsive to you, there are people that you can reach out to. You can reach out to the Project Spectrum team, because maybe we have a different contact for your particular issue. Maybe we know the answer. Maybe, again, we have a lot of companies that come into the Mentor Protege program that want to find mentors. And what they don't realize is the Mentor Protege program does not provide you with a mentor. You have to actually be the person your organization has to get a mentor, and then you need to agree to work together, and then you can look to join the Mentor Protege program. So again, it really depends on what the issue is, but I will tell you this, there's always somebody that you can reach out to. If you have questions about the Mentor Protege program, you can reach out to my colleagues at Move America. We work with the Mentor Protege program offices throughout all of the different services, and with DoD, we can usually help you find the answer that you need. Sometimes the answer is we can't give you an answer on that, or the answer is not exactly what you're going to be looking for, but we'll make sure that we're doing our best to give you the service that you need. And again, if you're looking to find information on MPP, you can reach out to Move America. You can go to our website, moveamerica.org. You can write to me. I'm at communications@moveamerica.org. And again, I am more than happy to put you in touch with somebody who can hopefully help get you the answer that you're looking for. All right, so we've got another question or comment. I'm enthusiastic about cybersecurity and creating a sound infrastructure and system. How do you convince users that cybersecurity is not meant to be time-consuming roadblocks? I will tell you this. everybody looks at cybersecurity as this huge burden. I have to do training. Oh my goodness, my two-factor authentication. I swear, if I have to input this password and go to my authenticator app one more time for Outlook in the middle of the day, I'm going to lose my mind. Yes, we get it. It really does seem like a burden, but you need to look at the flip side of things. You need to look at it as, what is it going to be like if you don't do those things? What is it going to be like if you don't have those cybersecurity practices drilled into you? What is it going to be like if you don't have that plan? What is it going to be like if production does shut down and everybody gets sent home and nobody gets paid and you lose customers and then things really start down that slippery slope? I really hate to preach the worst case scenario, but in some incidents, it's going to happen. The worst case scenario can happen. You have to look at it that way. It's like wearing your seatbelt while you're in the vehicle. Sometimes it's a pain. Sometimes it digs into your shoulder. Sometimes it's uncomfortable. Sometimes it ratchets and you have to stop and pull over to the side of the road so that you can loosen it, just so that you can then put it on properly. Yes, all of those things can happen, but think about what's going to happen if you do get into that accident, even that small 25-mile-an-hour fender bender where you're not wearing your seatbelt and you have a really good potential for running into that windshield. You need to let people know, as much as we don't like to look at the worst case scenarios, because if I thought I was going to get hit by a bus every time I walked out of the house, I'd never walk out of the house. But I need to recognize that if I live on a busy street and buses come by, I need to be careful, and I need to take precautions against buses coming by. So it's not that I think one's going to happen every day, but remember, we keep stressing this. When a cyber incident occurs, not if, when. Cyber incidents are going to incur. You're going to happen. They're going to happen. They're going to hit you. They're going to hit your organization. You want to make sure that you're prepared and you're ready, and that you're going to keep it from happening again, and you're going to minimize the damage, because again, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And the threat actors are getting more and more sophisticated. They really are. They are coming at us at all different types of directions. Their tactics are getting better and better every single day. They're using AI. So now you don't even have a room full of people trying to do bad things. You've got one machine that's doing bad things because it can do billions of operations per second. This is what we have to face. We have to understand that it is getting more and more complex. So having the proper cyber hygiene is what's really going to protect your organization. It's going to protect your data. It's going to protect your people, your devices. It's going to protect your reputation. Hopefully, that's going to be enough to get people on the cybersecurity train and keep them moving forward, because again, there's not a destination on that track. It's a journey, and you've got to just keep moving with it and keep evolving with it. And eventually, you're going to be able to hopefully stay ahead, if not at least catch up. All right, so we're going to go ahead and pause the questions there, because we do want to be respectful of your time, and we are coming up to that end of the hour. So we want to make sure that you understand that staying connected with Project Spectrum is a really good thing to do. You need to go visit our website. If you're not already registered, you need to register. You know, one of the things you're talking about, how do I get people on board? Let them register for Project Spectrum. Let them see some of these trainings and some of these, tools that we have, some of the courses that we have, some of the information that we have. It is all extraordinarily useful, and it's going to give you a different mindset when it comes to cybersecurity. So make sure that you're visiting our website, you're logging in, you're getting signed up. Again, absolutely no cost to you. We've got training webinars like this one. Make sure you're signed up for these. We hold them every single month. If you want to reach out to our team, there are two ways to do it. Number one is kind of the old-fashioned way. It's almost like snail mail these days. You can email us directly at support@projectspectrum.io. Or if you go to the Project Spectrum website and you look in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, no matter what screen you're on, you're going to see that little button that looks like a question mark. You can click on that and you can fill out a form, and that's going to get to us even sooner than an email will. So make sure you are using that contact button on our Project Spectrum website. Ask us any question. I can't log into my account. I don't know if I'm doing things correctly. I need help to figure out where I am on my baseline. All of those types of questions we can certainly answer. So make sure you're keeping in touch with us. And then last but not least, our social media. We are really trying hard these days to make sure that we're putting information out on social media at a regular clip that is useful, it's beneficial, it's teaching you something, it's showing you that we have thought leaders here, it's showing you that we have experts in cybersecurity that, again, can help your organization no matter the size. Project Spectrum on YouTube, great videos. This one's going to end up posted there. So you're going to be able to see it. You're going to be able to share it. We also have other videos that we are producing, training videos and informational videos. So again, all of that information is there. And then our LinkedIn page. Join us on our LinkedIn page, subscribe, do whatever it is that you need to do, follow us. You never know what the terminology is these days, but just make sure that you're following us on LinkedIn, because again, we're putting information out there as well, including updates on upcoming events like this webinar. So I'm going to stop now and I'm going to say thank you. I'm going to ask Kareem if he wants to jump back in and say anything else before we wrap up today's webinar.
Thank you, Rick. Just wanted to jump in and really say thank you. I think this has been very insightful. I think most would agree, not all, that look, there's nothing more germane to your small business than cybersecurity and specifically incident response planning. The fact that we're talking about it in the context of manufacturers is just apropos on a number of levels. Great questions in the chat here. It shows that you all understand, I think, both the imperative of proactive preparation, for and when thinking about incident response plans. And so I'm just excited that you all are here. And again, if you have not done so already, please take this moment to register on projectspectrum.io, as Rick underscored so well. Once you do that, you have access to the litany of resources that we have on our site. So please do that, and we look forward to having you join our ecosystem. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Kareem. And sorry to put you on the spot there, but I thought you would definitely have some good parting words, as you always do. And again, if you ever get the chance to meet Kareem at one of the events that he goes to, he does trainings, he does webinars. Kareem is a great guy. You and I have worked together for several years. And, I have to say it gets better every single time. So again, thank you for joining us today. We really do appreciate you taking the time and sharing the information that you did.
My pleasure.
All right. So for the rest of us, thank you so much for your time today. We know it's valuable. We definitely understand that it's valuable, and hopefully it was a valuable use of time to spend this hour with us. So I want to ask you to stay safe out there, digitally and otherwise. Remember, cybersecurity is not just an IT issue. It is a business survival skill. So with this, I'm going to say for all of the Project Spectrum team, Mark, who's done such a great job putting these webinars together, our cyber advisors who are here answering questions, Kareem, who's here giving you information, and everyone else on the Project Spectrum team, right up to the very top of the corporate ladder. We want to say thank you so much for joining us. My name again is Rick, and it has been my pleasure once again to host this webinar for you, and we hope that you'll come back for the next one. So with that, I'm going to say goodbye for now. May your data be protected. May your backups be recent. And we wish you the very best of success along your cybersecurity journey. Have a great day.